Brenda, are you ready to get started? Okay, welcome everyone. We can get started. I'm sure some people will probably come in as we get started here. We're going to do roll call. So I'll let Brenda take care of that.
Okay. Let's get started. Adam Holt. Chuck Yaden.
Present.
Wendy Osborne. She's on her way. I think she said she's going to be a little late. Lino Mendez.
Present.
Chuck Riojas. Karen Musson.
Here.
Larry Westerland.
Here.
Brian Melkor. Bill Niger. Jen Guerra.
Present.
Joseph Amador.
Here.
Susanna Ledesma.
Present.
Mia Moreno. Sarah Montemayor.
Present.
Denise Torres or Carla Torres. Karen Pearson. Greg Garcia.
Here.
Lee DeLapp.
Present.
Darren Rose. Artie Padilla. Nick Palladino.
Present.
Mona Cummings.
Present.
Scott Miller. Alexander Naranjo. Gail Miller. Wyatt Meadows. Kay Burtkin. Pastor Bassell.
Alternate.
Sabina or Aranya? Okay. Dr. Amber Crowell.
Present.
Dr. Esmeralda Diaz.
Yeah.
Jill Hindenack. Hindenack? Is that right? Alex Chavez. Pastor Joby Jones.
Here.
Nayamin Martinez. Or Aurelia Maceda. Evelyn Morales.
Here.
Cher Mua.
Here.
Travis Alexander. Emilio, his alternate? No. SB Sandoval.
Here.
Let's see who that is.
Anybody's name wasn't called that's here? Okay, great. Let's get started then. So put up the slides. The first bunch of slides really are just a kind of a reiteration of where we've been. So I'm not going to spend a long time on those. So if you can just pop up the slides under item 2. And so this is the first slide. Again, I'm not going to reread this for you. I always hate it when people do presentations and they read the PowerPoint slides. I know you can read. You got the hard copy in front of you. If you don't, you can look on the screen. That's basically where we've been. Next slide. What we're going to try to do today, talk about implementing guidelines. And one of the things that was listed, and I would say maybe it's a misnomer, is where it says it's final draft. It's not a final. It's still a draft. We're not there yet, so that has to be voted on by the committee, as you know. But we're looking at guidelines with neighborhood roads, public transportation, regional connectivity, innovation, and administration. At the end of this, actually, end of each major category, we're going to have public comment. So, next slide is guiding principles. We can go to that. So those are the things we talked about as guiding principles for all of this. What things we're trying to accomplish with a consensus measure. And then the purpose of the next slide, for purpose of the implementing guidelines. All right, and then next slide. Again, back to the funding categories that the committee approved. And that gets us finally to the first major category. And the first major, well, actually there's a list here of a number of categories: existing neighborhood roads, then public transportation, regional connectivity, access innovation, administration. We can go through those again pretty quickly. Again, this is by way of summary. So just for some of you have been to some of the meetings, some of you have missed some meetings. We have some people here that are also alternates. Maybe this is a benefit to you to kind of take a look at a summary of where we've been. But most of you have been here, so most of you already know this, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. If you want me to slow down, I will, but I want to get to the meat of the matter, so that's why I'm kind of going fast through this. Public transportation was the next major category that was discussed. Some of the things that they were focusing on, trying to accomplish. Also, then regional connectivity. I remember the 1% going to Fresno Air Terminal. Next one is access and innovation. This is technological innovation category. New stuff, as it were. And then finally, administration. Okay. So with all that, we got a lot of comments back that were sent to Robert. Some were sent to me. I think all of them were sent to Robert, so he had that. There were some general comments, and I'll let Robert pick it up from here. And the first thing I want to talk about is the general comments. Then we're going to go into the category, the first major category, which is roads. So,
Mark, can I ask a question really quick?
sure.
Did you say we are not voting on these today, or we are?
At this point, it's up to the committee whether or not they want to vote on it.
Right.
And so they may decide that, I understand because of this is a long process that you didn't get the draft implementation guidelines till late last night. So maybe you didn't have enough time to review them. That's totally fine. If you need more time, if you feel you had enough time, you can vote on them. If you feel you need a little more time, just we can meet next week, which we already have set aside December 11th if necessary to meet. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over now to Robert. And you can talk about the general comments, begin to get into some of the stuff on neighborhood roads.
Yeah, so just to begin to frame the discussion, that's a great opening question. I appreciate that question because following the timeline that we've tried to follow, the intent was for this meeting to be the final guidelines, right? But fully understanding that we may not be there yet. And so, as Mark said, it is completely up to the will of this body as to whether you wish to vote on these today. We're good either way with that. We understand that there may be concerns there, as you may have seen through the comments, the comment listing that was provided. There were a lot of, I think there's 20 to 21 pages of comments that we received, evidently a few that were omitted, some mechanical comments that were omitted, to try and summarize what we had primarily. But a lot of conflicting comments. So there's a lot of opinions about all of this. It's a very dynamic and complicated situation as you've discovered over your time here. So we understand that we may not quite be there yet, but if it's your will to approve them, fair enough. If not, then we move on. What we would like to do, the way that this is organized is to go through the comments, kind of trying to categorize. The PowerPoint does not capture every single comment, obviously, that was received. You do have a separate listing of those. But what we've tried to do with the PowerPoint is to group the comments into kind of major issues by category, and then to go back a second time and to discuss what the disposition of those comments were. And so I'm going to walk you through the comments, the listing of comments first under the major issues, and then we'll go back a second time and talk about how we addressed those comments. So first, we have some kind of global comments generally about the entire package, the document as a whole. As you can see, comments that the word shall creates, quote, strict and enforceable obligations that agencies may not be able to realistically meet, depending on funding, staffing, limited resources, et cetera. And then similar comment on metrics, an appeal to the steering committee to rely on technical expertise, informed judgments, and the potential for real-world operational constraints or practical realities. Next slide. I guess I can probably do this, right, Brenda? Okay, I'll try. Okay, so let's see. There we go. Okay, so by far, as you would see in the listing of comments, the number one issue that we received the most comments on by far was the surrounding the maintain and build the 150 miles of new bike or trail facilities specifically Class 1 or Class 4 by 2057, as identified by the active transportation plan for each jurisdiction. Related to that is exempting small jurisdictions of 25,000 or less from Class 1 or Class 4 requirements. Following those to the issue of PCI requirement on all existing neighborhood roads, comments related both to the metric itself and also questions and clarifications, expanding eligibility for road widening expenditures under specific circumstances, and a goal to reduce VMT. Moving on, we have providing for complete streets elements. So again, these are issues that are in the guidelines for which we receive multiple comments. Providing for complete streets elements on all category projects where feasible, including vehicles and equipment for engineers or surveyors as eligible expenditures, expanded definition or eligibility of TOD and mixed uses, ensuring that at least 20% of the units are built or low, very low, or extremely low income, including previously ineligible bicycle pedestrian facility maintenance expenses, such as water, electricity, signage, and so forth. So how did we address these? Okay, so again, as you can see, a lot of conflicting comments on this issue. Some thought that it was not enough, the 150-mile requirement. Some thought it was not enough. Some thought that it should be limited to trails or delineated very specifically, in terms of how many miles were going to be specified by Class 1 versus Class 4. And others thought that it was too onerous. And so the where we landed on this was to reduce it to 120 miles with a 70-30 urban split, urban versus rural split. So 84 miles for Fresno and Clovis and 36 miles for the county of Fresno. And then actually this is the wrong PowerPoint. Yeah, this is the wrong PowerPoint because this has been changed. So now it's for any jurisdiction required under state statute to produce its own transportation, its own active transportation plan.
So look at the hard copy. I think
Yeah, the hard copy.
The hard copy is correct.
Right. The hard copy is correct.
Brendan, want to note that Wendy just showed up. Oh, yes.
Okay. So going on to the next slide.
It might make some sense, Robert, to maybe have a discussion on this and then have a discussion on the next slide as we get there.
If
Walk
you
through
like.
it. Would that make sense?
Yeah, that's
So, okay, in terms of this one, you said there was a lot of comment about this
right.
particular one.
The 120 mile was by far the issue that received the most comment.
Okay, so I think I'd like to ask the steering committee what their thoughts are on this, and then we'll go on to the next one. I guess we'll start with Mona.
Yes, I've given this a lot of thought. I think conceptually, based on June 12th's, the needs that were expressed on the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan, it was expressed as the need for active transportation was somewhere $519 million. And that didn't include Clovis Fresno metro region. Now, getting back to the point here, to reach 65% for local roads, the steering committee agreed to move the entire category of active transportation into the local roads category, with the clear understanding that the 6% allocated to active transportation would be converted to comparable mile metrics that would be met with other or Measure C, non-Measure C funds like Measure P, Measure Y, state funds, federal funds. Measure C would be used as an insurance to make sure that specified miles were built in accordance to the needs of our community, especially based in the Fresno, Clovis metropolitan area. This looks quite different in the sense of I don't believe, or we don't believe that the smaller communities, there should be no mileage requirements for the county, Selma, Sanger, Reedley, but the mileage requirements should be put onto Fresno Clovis metropolitan area and the county islands within the metropolitan area. There is no reason why this number should have gone from 150 miles to 120 miles, like lowering our ability to be able to meet the needs of our community. It should be proportion 70-30 Fresno Clovis for meeting metrics. Clovis does a fantastic job at expanding their trails throughout the system. There's the cost for a 70-30 split is somewhere around $135 million, which is 1.82% of Measure C. This is actually a massive cut to active transportation. In fact, Class 1, sort of the multi-use trails, the walking trails that we're used to utilizing, or hey, riding your bike on there if you don't feel safe on the roadway, that is virtually eliminated in this, with the choice of the cost of building a mile of trail costs about $1 million or more. It is expensive, but it is something that allows us to have another network of connectivity within our region. With this, with what's in place here in the implementation guidelines, there's just not enough. I think there just hasn't been enough attention placed on this section. I have no doubt that we can get to a consensus, but we need to prioritize active transportation under local roads if we're going to advance. We shouldn't be the only city, metro region in the state of California that does nothing to provide for individuals who don't have cars to get to work or to school or medical appointments. We should be leading the way on that. And we have very reasonable request for requiring a commitment by the city of Fresno to find the land, to fund the trails, so that our constituents can have somewhere to walk and ride their bikes and their little. I mean, in the future, over the course of 30 years, who knows what else is going to be on the trail? I mean, little hoverboards and stuff. We've had these conversations that in many cases, this is not going to be on the road. So based on that, I would say that the guidelines are completely unacceptable, as we would have never agreed to move active transportation under roads if we thought it was going to be eliminated like this. Thank you.
Just raise your hand. We'll go around the table. Do you have anybody else?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to add
Okay.
something that I agree with her. And, also defining a specific number of miles without saying at least will give a little more leeway to entities to do more than that. We shouldn't inhibit the development of trails,
Okay.
which I think this does.
Okay. Anyone around here? Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I appreciate the comments. I went back and I took a look at some notes and talked with some folks. So when the city of Fresno was working on the trails that they have, and I used to represent District 4, which had the McKinley Canal that is now a trail through there. And if I remember, Scott Mosier said the city of Fresno has a total of 12 miles. And that's okay, Scott. People will remember it better than I will remember it. Yeah, go ahead.
That was not on. Members of the committee, just briefly, I apologize. I was focused on a kind of smaller number of major trails. Our actual Class 1 mileage is 64 miles in the city. So we've been building consistently, whether it's Southeast, Southwest Trail, brand new Veterans Boulevard Trail. So we're at 64 miles.
So that's 64 in class
Class 1.
Class 1. And then which one is class 4?
Class 4 are commonly.
multi-purpose trail?
Often known as, no, class 4, often known as protected bike lanes. Mr. Palladino will have some correction to that. Yeah, but cycle tracks or, yeah, common name is protected bike lanes.
Yeah,
Yes, Barstow's.
right, okay.
Barstow's class 4,
That's what,
Van Ness, Fulton.
and McKinley, the down McKinley Canal is
1.
class
An
1.
off-street, yeah, an off-street bike path, bicycle, pedestrian walking trail, that's class 1.
And how
Lewis
many
had
miles is it?
64.
We've got 64 of that now?
Fresno has 64.
Okay.
Yes. Class 4, I can pull that up by the time that we're done, but I believe we're under 10 miles of class 4 today, but I can get that.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks. Yeah, so thinking about it and looking back at the work and how long it took to put those trails in, it seemed like 150 mile or 120 and what was originally 150 seemed to be way more than possible to achieve, given the time frame that we had. I know it took it took years just to get the Fresno Irrigation District to agree to third-party liability and the potential tort issues that came up with that before we could start building anything down it. And then, of course, when they did have it built, it had to be built at such a standard. At one time, they wanted fencing on both sides. Well, our argument was, well, people are already using it as a trail anyway. So anyway, it just seemed to me that 150 miles is excessive and really not beyond what is possible, realistically speaking. As we sit here today, right, it's about 11 miles to get from downtown Fresno to get to the river is about what it says. So, how far would we get with 150 miles over the entire structure? So I was glad to see it go to the 8436. I think it's more realistic, and I think we should keep that in mind in what's actually possible. There's not everybody has the ability to put full staffs on doing this particular issue.
I've got a
I think
suggestion.
that's what it's required.
I've got a suggestion. So we have within our plan within the measure by 2030 that we have a transit plan or transportation plans in place. How about a Fresno Clovis Metropolitan Trail Plan that's adopted by 2030? One of the issues with trails is that we have smatterings of ideas of where trails can go. And yes, it's complicated and it is expensive, but it is a worthy investment for our community members to get around. And one of the problems is we don't have a collective plan. If Fresno and Clovis can together create a plan that will allow for the utilization of the funds to be most benefit the community, we can do it. There needs to be some vision for that.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second? I hate to be the lawyer here, but there's some confusion going on here. It says in the measure, it says class 1 or 4. So this is not, the way it's written, it's not 120 miles of trails. It could be 120 miles of class 4, just protected bike lanes, and 0 miles for trails, the way it's written. So that would be an issue. Just to be clear on that, there's a difference between the two. Yeah.
But that is not the intent.
It doesn't matter what the intent is. That's what's written. And in 10 years or 20 years, people are going to read what's written. They're not going to be looking at the intent.
I have a more simple question. Why we went from 150 that was in the draft to 120?
And the answer is that was the kind of the collective decision here based on the comments received, all of the comments received within.
We as steering committee made that decision? Or reducing 150, 120? That I don't recall that. When was that meeting?
No, that's why it's in front of you now.
Yeah.
So where?
Okay. I think for me it's contradictory that you are putting in the previous slide that it's one of the top comments of people making recommendations about new bike or trail facilities. And then we just go around and cut it by 30 miles. I mean, what's the rationale for that decision that you're proposing or that recommendation?
Because the comments were conflicting on this one, as they were for many of these issues. And so again, this was a call by staff in collaboration with all the stakeholders, all the comments that we received. But that's why it's in front of the committee. That's why we're highlighting it, because it is up to you to make the determination of what recommendation you wish to go forward.
It might make some sense. Let's go around the table and get more comments. And we may not be able to decide this issue today. It may need more thought, but I would like to hear the comments of the rest of the people there. I think, Artie, you had a comment?
Well, I was actually going to share the same thing that Mona just shared about having, unless you have a strategic plan set in place, then you will continue to have the smatterings of things that really don't connect with each other. So that was my recommendation as well.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this issue? Nick?
Yes, I was one of the people who, at the last meeting, I made the comment that 150 seemed to be low, and now I see it dropped to 120. I'll to a certain extent repeat much of what Mona said. In using 2020 hindsight, it appears to me, even appeared to me at the time, folding active transportation safe routes to schools into existing streets and roads was a bad move. It appeared to me at the time it was not a good idea. It meant that active transportation safe streets and roads was no longer guaranteed its own slice of funds. We then became an eligible project category competing against, street repairs and rehabilitation and maintenance, and that we're not guaranteed our own, pot of money. That was somewhat ameliorated by the fact that classes 1 and 4 would be given targets, initially 150 over 30 years, and safe routes to schools. It will also be given targets. I think it was 5 a year. Now, when we submitted, we being Tina Sumner and I submitted, we asked for a 50% increase above 150. Now it's been chopped back to 120. And I think, once again, that's too low. One of our rationales, of course, we want a network of, bicycle facilities, a network of class bikeways. I use the term bikeways to encompasses 1, 2, 3, and 4, primarily 1, 2, and 4, to provide a viable alternative mode of transportation, to get people out of their single occupant vehicles, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, get people out of their SOBs. So we need a network of 1s and 4s and 2s. Therefore, once again, we need to spend the money really somehow, to build at least 150. And this may require using Measure C to leverage state and federal funds. Therefore, I will object basically to 120, but I recognize, of course, that a lot of the language, in this implementation guidelines promotes, 1s and 4s as an eligible project. There's an awful lot of discretionary words put in there that allows jurisdictions to say, well, I don't think it's feasible. But I've addressed that later on. So I agree with much of what Mona said.
The other facts you might want to know, in the current measure, I believe 3.11% of the current measure goes to trails. And the second factoid you might want to remember is that the steering committee in its original allocation for active transportation had 6% allocated to active transportation. Now, I don't know what now that it's been moved into roads and with the number being proposed, what that would equal in terms of Measure C dollars. I mean, what did happen to that 6%? Did it go to?
Well, it was slashed by 83% on these next guidelines, these guidelines. So the steering committee recommendation, if you go with the lowest cost option, it's slashed by 83%.
Assuming all 120 miles are class 4.
Exactly, which is the lower cost investment. And that, unfortunately, guidelines are created so that we have a minimum standard. And I want to reiterate that when we set the mileage, whether it's 150 or 180 or whatever it is, and split it between, so the Fresno metropolitan region, which is the most populous part of the area, create this network under an active transportation plan, right, by 2030, then we can actually find funding. This is an example, the Fresno Midtown Trail, right? McKinley Avenue gap closure. The total project cost was $3,500,000, and Measure C funds 1.9, leverage state funds 1.5. So all of the money does not have to come from Measure C. This is just an insurance policy for our community that we continue to advance in this way, and with special attention to Class 1, because they're more expensive, and we know by history that we need to create some goals for our cities to follow. Clovis has been really good about prioritizing trails. They want people to ride their bikes. They want families to be able to walk. They want you to be able to walk to work if you don't have enough money to put fuel in your car. We want more of that. We want more of what Clovis has. Fresno should step up.
Is there anyone else who have any comments on this? Lee?
Yeah. Is it my understanding then that 30% would be required by the county of Fresno?
The way, I believe that Robert can answer this. I think it's the way it's drafted. I think the answer is yes, but I'm not sure. Robert, go ahead.
So again, the way that it's drafted now, it's split 84 urban and 36 rural. And so rural is defined by as any jurisdiction that's required under state statute to have its own active transportation plan.
And what is that standard, Robert? Is it 25,000
It's
population? or
yeah,
what is it?
25,000 right now.
But that could change.
That could change potentially, yeah.
So we got to hear from Scott on their status within city of Fresno. Perhaps we could hear from Fresno County
Sure.
on how they're doing.
If you want to do that, if Mohammed wants to go up and speak to that, that's fine.
I just want to say something in regards to the metropolitan area, is that I'm suggesting that City of Fresno have a piece, City of Clovis have a piece, the county islands have participation in that because they're part of the metropolitan area, but not to put a huge onus on the county itself. So the rural areas, unincorporated, no mileage requirements for those
So
particular
you're thinking
areas.
of county islands primarily.
Just county islands,
Okay.
yes. So City of Fresno, City of Clovis, county islands within those jurisdictions.
Is there a question then for Mohammed Lee, you want Mohammed to answer? Hold on one second. Lee? Is there a question you have for Mohammed to answer?
Just as to the impact here on this current information.
Okay,
Let's
so what comments would you like to make about this?
Well, good afternoon, Mohammed Alimi, Fresno County. Class 1 and Class 4 trails are not our typical type of infrastructure that we put in the county. We typically use Class 2 bike lanes, not Class 1. So that's something that would be a challenge to meet for the county if all that 36 miles is required. But we can put Class 4. County did a preliminary study of putting a sand walking trail that starts from Millerton Lake and goes up to the foothills. It's very, very long trail, but from the environmental standpoint, again, that's going to be very cost prohibitive, if not.
I don't think, given what Mona just said, I don't think that she's talking about that at all. In fact, they're not talking about recreational trails.
Well,
Talking about
even in
urban
county
trails.
islands, county islands, even putting a bike lane sometimes is challenging. So there is not enough room, and sometimes there are encroachment issues. So even putting Class 2 bike lanes is a challenge, yet alone Class 1.
I think one of the things that's going on here, there's confusion about Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, and I think it's just balancing it all. Class 1 are trails off the street. Class 2 are the painted stripe on the street, bike lane. Okay. Class 3 is the sign that says bike route. That's all, just a sign that says bike route, no protection. And then Class 4 is what a layman, I know Nick will say cycle track, but a layman would say is a protected bike lane where there's some physical barrier between you and the traffic like Barstow Avenue. So they're different. And what's happening here is they're mixing them all up. Class one, there's a difference. It depends what you want, what the community wants. Do they want class one? If so, to what extent? Do they want class four? If so, to what extent? Two, in my understanding, is typically happens when you build a road, a new road, they paint a stripe on the street. So that's going to happen anyway. Class three is, I don't know, maybe Nick will comment on class three, but class three it's just a sign that says bike route. It doesn't really provide any protection. I don't think even cyclists are very excited about class threes. So it's really the question here, it really comes down to class one and class four. Trails, how much do you want for trails? And class four, how much do you want for protected bike lanes? And so here they're mixing it up. And so potentially the way this is written, it could be all class four. Now, I think where Robert was saying that that's not the intent, and that may very well be the case, but that's not the way it's written. And I'm sorry, I'm a lawyer. I read it the way it's written, not what the intent was. And so if there's a concern there, then maybe what this needs to be is tabled. There needs to be some discussion. There seems to be a little pushback here, some discussion about what's appropriate. Is there anybody else that wants to talk on this issue? Speak on this
Mark,
issue? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. please.
I'd like to comment, you mentioned about the county islands. That's fine, but what about the disadvantaged communities, Mendota being one? Yeah, it'd be great if we could have these nice trails, bike trails and so forth. We want to just improve our roads,
I think Mona said that they would be excluded. They would not be
No, she's the
required.
county islands.
No. She's talking about the county islands in the Fresno urban area only.
Well, the wording, like you said, the wording means important because
Yes,
in
the
the
words are
future,
important, yes.
who's going to see it? When they say
Right.
county islands, we're not a county island.
No,
We're an incorporated
no,
city.
there's-
Biola would be a county island.
No, I think, just to be clear, I think what Mona was proposing was small jurisdictions would not be required at all to do any of these requirements.
Well,
They're only
the wording
talking
should
about
be
the
clear.
Fresno Clovis urban area. That's
And
all.
this is why
talking
a
about.
plan, like an active transportation plan, is really critical. And we could write that language in here that allows us to make a plan so that it hits these points, right? Who's obligated, who's not obligated? What are the options in achieving this plan, et cetera? So where can we put these trails? et
And
cetera?
by the way, there is precedence for this, just so you know. Under the current measure, smaller jurisdictions are not required to meet the class one requirements. They're exempted. And so I think what Mona's proposing is just to keep that in place. So,
Right. In fact, what we're proposing is, as close as I can determine, is less than 2% of Measure C, over the years, versus 3.1, which we have presently in the measure. So this will allow us to meet at least, a good amount of our goals in the region and to create more of a network of trails within the Fresno Clovis metropolitan region, southwest, southeast to northeast, northwest. Let's have options that are off-road.
yeah, I'm going to ask the question because I don't want to make any assumptions. And that is, does the steering committee want to vote on this measure approval, or you just want to table it and let it be revised and bring it back with a revision? I'll leave it to you guys what you want to do, because it sounds like there's some disagreement here. We could go back and COG staff can go back and rework this and present you with something else, or would you like to do that? Or do you
Well,
want to?
what we would appreciate is a vote. We don't mind redrafting. That's not a problem, but we ask that you give us some collective direction. So we would appreciate a vote if that's the will of the committee.
I got a
Okay, hold on.
I have
Okay,
a question.
let's go around here. We'll go around the table. Go ahead.
Yep. Before we go to a vote, I mean, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the passion for the folks that are real concerned about this issue, and it's important. And I think it's a great issue that we need to fully explore. And the idea of a active transportation plan, and I recall the city of Fresno getting designated a bike community when I was on the council. And so the city of Fresno actually does have, and now I don't know what its current state is, but a active bike trail, master bikes trail, I think is.
active transportation plan. Active transportation
The
plan.
It's a master plan for bike trails for the city of Fresno. So I would imagine at some point, and I don't know if the Clovis folks are here, and maybe Mona, you know, if they have done a master trail plan as well. Scott, is ours still functional? Is it, you know, I'm getting dated on how long I've been off council. But has it been updated? Has there been, what's its current status?
Let Scott answer the question, then you go next.
Yes, so our current plan was adopted by the council, Fresno City Council 2017. We're on the home stretch of an update. We anticipate being before our council next 60 days with an update of that plan. And that covers class 1, 2, 3, 4, and sidewalks.
You know, Scott, I have a question for you. You sent out the note earlier today about the 60 some miles of class 1 in Fresno. And I noticed on the first thing you had listed there was a trail from where I live down Willow from Nees to Barstow. That is not a complete trail, but you have it listed as a complete trail. Can you explain why you had that as listed as a complete trail when it's not?
Oh, that's just our maintenance staff. Within those limits, we had 2 miles within the limits, but no, that not all of the distance you're referencing is longer than that.
Okay.
But there's 2 miles.
2 miles of
constructed.
actually being completed of
Yes,
that.
we have 64 of class 1. I do have the number on class 4 with the cycle tracks. We're at 17 miles currently. And we basically added all of that in the last 5 years.
Great. Well, and then Scott, let me follow up with then the next question, because here's the other part that I'm interested in. In when you did the master bike plan, for lack of a better term at this point, did you survey or get some idea of the number of folks that utilize those trails right now? I mean, I do get people who occasionally ask me, well, you know, we build these trails and they're great, but how many people actually use them? Is it really worth the investment? And I don't know if you surveyed that or somehow monitor or no. Because I mean, you know, after all, this is a plan for the citizens of Fresno County. And we know how many people use single family cars, right? We know that's the number one transportation. I don't know. Is there any data on that?
Yes. So, and you're correct. Your memory serves you well. The original plan before became the ATP for us, it was called the Bicycle and Trail Master Plan. That was adopted, I want to say, around 2010, 11, around those years.
Brian Jones.
Yes. And then when we put our active transportation plan together, we did survey that use. That's about 1% of total trips. I think Fresno COG has a lot of data as well on countywide uses, you know, origin, destination, how many go by walking, biking, and such. And then in the last plan and the current plan, there's also an emphasis from the surveys and what is standing in the way of people using those facilities. And it talks about the different types of users, ranging from the bold and fearless, who are very comfortable with a class 2 on a 45, 50 mile an hour road, no problem, to those who say, no way, I'm not going to do that. I'm interested, but I'm very concerned. And then what we found in the surveys is that interested but concerned part of the population, which I have to pull up the document, but I want to say that's around 30-40% of the public basically saying, give me a trail, give me a protected bike lane. That could get me to where I'm comfortable riding. But it's just that bold and fearless group who say, yep, I'm good with the stripe.
So let me make sure I understand what you said. So under the current survey, only 1% of persons in the county of Fresno utilize the class 1 through 4?
Paul, sounds about right.
Or am I misunderstanding that?
Let me ask our COG experts.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Paul
thank you.
Herman, Deputy Director. So yeah, generally 1%, but it really depends on the type of trip, right? So commute trips, it's close to 1%. There's recreational surveys that are closer to 5 to 7%. So there's a lot of different data, and it really depends on the intent of the trip. But But yeah, for daily commute trips, it is about 1%.
Paul, I know that Clovis literally has a counter on
Yeah,
on the
there are
trail.
bike and pedestrian
Do they
counters.
have numbers that,
Yeah, they do have numbers. That we use that data. I don't have it in front of me, but we use that data in our modeling to understand.
This would be fantastic, again, for a Fresno Metropolitan Regional Trail and Bike Plan, so that we have some goals within a Fresno County tax that is targeted for the most populous area, the metropolitan region. Fresno, Clovis, and then county islands within that.
So I
hold
did
on,
want to
hold
talk to Paul.
I want to make sure other people have a chance to talk too, though. So is there anybody else that has and we'll follow up once other people have a chance to talk. Does anybody else have a question here? Go ahead.
Yeah, just wondering if we could just move it along and maybe
Okay.
take a vote. I mean, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the core value of bike trail. We all agree they're valuable. We had the
Okay.
same conversation about public transit. Well, only so many people ride it. It's valuable. We already voted on its value by allocating funding to it. So just suggesting maybe we just vote on 120 or 150.
I would just make a friendly amendment to that, and that is, there is some other language here that I think is also somewhat problematic, and that is the or, class 1 or class 4. Do you want it all to go to one or the other? Do you want to bifurcate that? Maybe a better answer is maybe a more global question. Do you approve this language, yes or no? And then if the answer is no, then we go back and revise it and try to kind of clean up some of the other issues, and have that by next week.
This question, is that what we're gonna do for all the other sections?
Right.
When
Yeah,
we have
yes.
revised language?
Yes.
Okay, so our meeting
Yes.
is gonna go until when?
Does that sound all right?
8 o'clock? I have a lot of comments on the next
Right.
section, so.
There's other substance.
Okay, so how does the group feel about that? I think maybe an answer might be to just say vote up or down whether you accept this language or not. And if not, we just go back and have COG revise it with something else that's more acceptable.
Probably do better than that. I mean, because the comments are about leave it at 150. I'd like to be able to vote on that. We just
Okay.
take it back to where it was before, because that gives, I think, you more guidance than just, we don't like this.
Okay, so maybe it would be, if I get this right, yes or no on this. And then the second question would be, well, we'll at least change it to 120 to 150. And then that's still not done yet. There still has to be some other things that have to be worked out with this language.
Right.
Is that what you're
But I
saying?
think this 150, 120 is probably the most
Okay.
contentious, right?
Okay.
Make a motion. Make a
All right, yeah.
motion.
I want to go around the table and everybody have a chance to say something. Okay, Kay, go ahead. And then Kay, you were the next.
All right. I also would like us to consider the division between rural and urban there and consider what Mona has said about the metropolitan area. I think that's significant and important.
So then another question would be, do you want to limit this specifically to the Fresno Clovis metro
Yeah.
area?
Yes.
Okay. Any other points? Go ahead.
So there is a second portion there. There's the 36 miles for any jurisdiction required under state statute to produce its own active transportation plan. Does that include any town over 25,000?
Current-
How is that worded?
Currently, yes.
So isn't that just Sanger and Reedley?
Yes.
Is
So-
Selma, is
so
Selma?
Sanger-
Selma is
24.
right on the cusp.
Yeah, and so my question is, Selma and Reedley are required to do the 36 miles for the next 30 years
No,
or until,
no, it would be 36 miles divided among those that are required to do an active transportation.
and which are required to do that?
Right now, it would be, I believe, the county, Sanger and Reedley.
And then Selma if it crosses the line.
Selma could cross, yeah.
Yeah.
They're right at the cusp.
Or if
Uh,
we went with
that's
a regional plan,
Okay.
we would exclude Selma.
Right, it would
Reedley,
just be
you know.
just the Fresno urban, or any
It would
other
just-
here before we get to,
I-
I haven't forgotten you, Larry. But Karen, you want to make a comment?
I'm going to recommend that this be tabled. This obviously needs a lot more consideration than what's before us with a lot more detail. And Mona's right. It needs a more comprehensive plan that fully addresses the need of all the cities, whether they're 25 and above or under. But to just take a number today and say that's approved, I would vote no.
Okay. Larry,
So if that was a motion, I'd second Karen Mussin's tabling motion, if that was a motion.
I move to table the motion.
And
The
I'm-
table,
I'll
the item.
second it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason I don't, I mean, I appreciate it. I don't want to just do an up or down on the 150 versus 120 because there's a lot more context involved in this. And there's some, obviously some different opinions about small cities. And I do think it needs, and I'm not against having a regional plan. I think the planning makes sense almost all the time. I just don't know what we already have in place and whether they mesh together. So
Well,
I think tabling makes
We
sense.
we have a motion, we have a second. Let's take a vote on that. And this is going to be just an up or down vote. It's not 70%,
It's just a table to matter.
just to table the matter. So let's go and do a roll call of the people here.
I think that's what this means.
Adam Holt,
Yes.
Chuck Yaden,
Yes.
Wendy Osborne,
Yes.
Karen Musson,
Yes.
Larry Westerlin, Jan Guerra,
Yes.
Joseph Amador,
Yes.
Susanna Ledesma,
Yes.
Sarah Montemayor,
Yes.
Greg Garcia,
Yes.
Lee DeLapp,
Yes.
Sharon Rose,
Yes.
Mona Cummings,
Yes.
Scott Miller, Artie Padilla,
Yes.
Nick Palladino,
Yes.
Kay Burtkin,
Yes.
Dr. Amber Crowell,
Yes.
Dr. Esmeralda Diaz, Sabina Aranya,
Yes.
Okay, I think it was unanimous. Wow. Okay.
Brenda, I was not called.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
I
was
just-
still working my way down the list.
Oh.
Then they stopped it.
Jump
Yeah.
the gun. I'm sorry. Good- go
Want me
ahead.
to finish?
Yes, please.
Okay. Jill, sorry, you gotta tell me how to. Indenok, okay, thank you. Alex Chavez,
Yes.
Pastor Joby Jones,
Yes.
Naomi Martinez,
Yes.
Evelyn Morales, Cher Mua,
Yes.
SB Sandoval.
Yes.
Did I get everyone?
Did you get everyone? Yes. Okay, that was unanimous. Good. Well, did everyone get called on? Okay, assuming everyone did. Let's go on to the next topic then. What we'll do, since this is obviously an issue, that people have brought up the question of 120 versus 150. What you may want to do is maybe let COG staff know what your feelings are on that issue, and as they're redrafting this, they can take that into consideration. I was thinking initially about doing maybe a straw poll here, but I'm wondering if that, I don't know if that's the right idea, because then people might take that the wrong way. Maybe they can just vote their conscience quietly and silently by just sending a note to Fresno COG saying, we really think it should be this or that in terms of the mileage. The second issue that was brought up was whether this should be limited, these requirements should be limited to the Fresno Clovis metro urban area exclusively. In other words, exempting the smaller communities and exempting the county outside the Fresno Clovis metro area. That second issue, you might also want to weigh in on with the COG staff so they know what you're thinking. And then we can bring it back. Once that is done, we can bring it back for your vote. Okay? Let's move on to the next group or issue. Sorry.
Yeah, Brenda, can you advance, please? There we go. Okay, so the next issue is the question of the minimum PCI requirement. If you look at the guidelines on page 15, there's some language there. The intent here is there were some questions surrounding whether this was a requirement that was necessary to meet before any other existing streets and roads funding was expended. And the answer is no. But it does tie into the bullet point below, which is the eligibility for accessing the 5%. So the 65 minimum PCI requirement is a minimum before there can be expansion. However, there is now new language for the expansion issue that provides expanded eligibility for road widening expenditures under very specific circumstances. And you can see that there those projects that demonstrate significant safety or mobility benefits as supported by traffic studies that demonstrate reductions in fatalities and serious injuries for all road users, so not just motorists. Eligible projects would include dedicated transit lanes, dedicated and protected Class 1 or Class 4 facilities, safety-motivated turn lanes, or intersection improvements that benefit all road users. So again, we're not just talking about motorists here. So this would be an exemption to the 5% rule. So right now, the way it reads is before a jurisdiction can expend the maximum of 5% of its funding on any kind of road widening project, it would have to meet the minimum 65% threshold for its streets and roads. These would be exemptions to that rule.
Okay. I hope people got all that. That was a lot. You want, if there's any questions, you can ask Robert. We'll start here with Sure.
Robert, just clarifying question. Do you meant to say that for expansions, right, the road has to be up to 65% PCI before it can be expanded?
Correct, generally
Okay.
speaking. However, this language has been added to introduce certain exemptions under very specific conditions to that rule.
So if it meets one of those conditions, then it doesn't necessarily have to meet the 65%.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I do
Go
want to
ahead.
speak to this too. It's my understanding that the intention of the expansion, right, is to like improve capacity, right, safety, et cetera. I also want to note, and I also want to like suggest adding language, right, that these expansions, right, not impede on pedestrians, like pedestrian walkways, right, or bike paths later in the road. So for example, if a road doesn't have any space at all, and like the expansion is going to cause us to lose like a pedestrian walkway or a bike path, right, I want to add that language in there so that it's not impeded. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go counterclockwise now around the table and get people's comments on this. So,
Just commenting on these.
yes, just one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, but all other aspects that were included in roads or just this?
Just this part, and then we'll go through each. That's eating an elephant one bite at a time. So we'll start with Lee and go around. Any comments on this?
Just my reaction is that seems tremendously confining for what we're dealing with. 30 years.
Is there? Well, perhaps there's some language that could maybe address that. We could think about maybe some language, but I get your point. You want the flexibility to deal with that. So I don't know if Karen wants to make a comment and as we go around. Okay. Anyone? Anyone around here? Larry?
Well, I'm Mr. Delap. I'm just trying to understand, but what do you mean by terribly confined on it? So as I understand it, this provides an exemption. So if the community reaches a 65% or better, then
Each road.
in the community, right? So really kind of only Clovis is the one that kind of fits,
Close to 70. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At the-
Kerman.
So they would have more flexibility on dealing with the 5% that we're talking about. They wouldn't have to meet this. It's everybody until it gets to 65, or this exemption allows it to work. Yeah.
Correct.
So you could use that money for this kind of safety improvements. And it seems like a reasonable compromise. to me.
Okay.
So,
Anyone else on the table? You know, I would probably be a good idea maybe to have Scott and Mohammed step up to the mic for a second and just give their general comments on this. Scott, why don't you start first and just your general comments on this, if you have any concerns, issues that you think the steering committee should be aware of?
I would suggest, I'm sensing there's still a little bit of confusion about the 70 is very clear, getting to a network average of 70, but the each and every road 65, that's something I sense from the comments, there's some uncertainty about that. We saw that was struck from the required metrics in one section, but language added back in another. For example, City of Fresno, as far as that, yes, the consultant NCE found our average network PCI is now at 64. That's good news. We were able actually to bring it up the past few years through some investments. That's good. But about half of our network is below 65. PCI is 65. So you're talking like 850 miles of roads, or 1,900 lane miles that are below 65. There's not enough money in the entire measure to bring all of those roads up to 65. The network PCI can get to 70, but there's not enough money to address every single street that is below that level.
Perhaps I misunderstood. I thought that if you wanted to increase capacity on a particular street, it had to be above 65. Am I?
I'm not, is that the intent that particular street must be above 65? Robert, maybe you can elaborate.
The intent of the construction or the expansion and restriction is that the entire network has to be at a minimum of 65
network.
before, except under this language, if these projects would be exempted for these purposes. So if a road was either at 65 or below 65, but had eligibility for a project that is mentioned within this language, then it would be exempted.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just not understanding this. I don't think I'm the only one. Could you try that again? So it's not non-transportation folks.
Sure. Okay, so you have an average PCI across an entire network,
right?
And then you have the condition of each street and road.
Right. So the 70 is the entire network,
correct?
And 65 is the particular road,
correct?
Specific road. Okay,
correct. Okay. So what there is right now a restriction in the language. There's a restriction for any kind of capacity increase in a local existing neighborhood street and road, any kind of increase in capacity widening, right? Until and unless the entire road network reaches a minimum of 65.
So why is 70 there?
Of that jurisdiction.
I think that's the confusion. Why is 70 there?
Because 70 is the average of the entire network, as
so it has
opposed
to be both average and
correct. Okay. So
confusing.
What this does is to exempt certain projects from that restriction. For these projects that are mentioned here would be exempted for these purposes.
Maybe let's give Scott one more chance at this. Scott Mosier, I'm sorry to bring you up again, but how would it impact you on a regular daily basis? I mean, when you're trying to do this, how do you read this? And then Adam, we'll get you.
My apologies. I'm still not clear on how that.
I think we may need to table this.
How that applies. Just there's the total network and then the individual street.
Right.
So
okay.
I don't know if Mohammed has a crystal clear understanding of it, but you may want to get some county perspective. But I'm not quite clear on the proposed rule.
Neither am I. So,
okay.
But one thing I like to point out is Measure has been very instrumental for capacity increasing projects for the county. We widened Academy Avenue to 4-lane. We widened Mountain View project with 4-lane. Okay. Federal money, unfortunately, is not available for capacity increasing projects. So Measure has been the key funding source for us to do those type of projects. And there are several other projects that actually we would like to use the measure money to widen. So by
Can you
restricting.
give an example?
Shaw Avenue, Manning Avenue, east of Ridley, I believe Temperance Avenue.
Okay.
So there are several. Millerton Road, which is right now on tier 2 of current measure. So restricting the agencies to have some flexibility to use this fund to meet their needs is not going to serve the measure. I appreciate what everybody is trying to do to put some teeth in these guidelines, but by putting goals that cannot be met is really not helping anybody. So
I'd like to get, Adam was going to make a comment. I would like to him. Go
What
ahead.
problem are we trying to solve with the language that COG has put in here?
Well, you can ask Robert. What my interpretation of it is, I'm reading it, is people are trying to reduce vehicle miles traveled and sprawl. It seems to be that's the intent of the 5%. But I that's my thought. But Robert,
But even before that, where there's a distinction between 70 and 65 that's not clear to the room. What problem are we trying to solve?
The intent behind the rule is to raise all roads up to a minimum standard before there is any additional capacity.
Okay.
Period.
Okay, so fix it first before you increase capacity.
Correct. In line with the guiding principles, fix it first. That is the directive here. Now, but the language recognizes that there may be certain projects that are, for safety reasons, for all road users, may be necessary to be exempted.
So a carve out.
Correct.
Okay. Does that help, Adam?
Well, then on page 15, what is the language that's been added to number 2 on the program requirements? What is, that's what we're looking at, right, on 15?
It's actually page 16. That
Well, humor me and go to 15 at the bottom of the page, item 2. What does that mean? Each local street and road will reach 65 PCI or above before what?
And then it's immediately followed by number 3. And that is the intent of those two that kind of work in tandem.
So item 2 is not the averages. It's in fact, each local street and road will reach 65 before any expansion or capacity
Correct.
work can be done.
except if that expansion project
Except
meets
for
these
the language
criteria.
that's been added with the exemptions, yes.
And so other than Clovis, everybody else is going to have a hard time even reaching 65 with quote, all of their roads.
Yeah, but without that language, I think to your point about what problem are we solving for, without the 65% language, then we risk just saying, oh, well, Clovis is great and one other city is great.
It's
so
not
there we go.
65% though. It's just 65. It's not a number of
Oh,
them. It's
then
it's
it
a
should-
quality index. So 100% of the roads in the neighborhoods or in this category have to meet 65 before anything else can happen.
Okay.
Is that
I
No, before,
Before we
except if the proposed projects meet those criteria, which is a lot of projects.
the carve out? In other words, the carve out would exempt a lot of streets from that requirement.
so? It's not a real requirement if we know that there are an abundance of projects that will use that carve out.
Well, but currently that's not how it goes, right? Currently, these are just expansions for sprawl. It's a slush fund for sprawl. So we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. So if it's for safety, sure, great. That's what we're saying.
It's a safety or mobility benefits.
You're right.
So, I mean, an argument could be made that, to increase mobility, you need to expand. It depends how you interpret that, I suppose. I'm sorry, you are?
Yeah, my name is Paul Armendariz with the city of Clovis. And just on the 65 PCI for every street, that would even be difficult for the city of Clovis. If it's an average, we can hit that. But if you add in arterials, collectors, any of those other streets, non-residential, it'd be nearly impossible even for the city of Clovis to hit a 65 PCI for every single street. So if the goal is to limit widening projects or expansion projects outside of those exceptions, I think that's what this would accomplish.
Okay. Again, there seems to be a little confusion. Go ahead.
not sure if there's so much confusion because we explained to it earlier in our meetings in the past where each city or each community had a PCI rating, and that's what they're going by, that rating. So it's the average of that street. I think they said Fowler had 39 miles that were above, 65. So it gave it our average that I think it was we're at 58 or something like that. The whole idea of it, if I'm understanding it correctly, is you use the money, what it's for, is to fix the roads. And so when you get up to that 65 PCI for your community, then, like she was saying earlier, then you can use the money for other projects, expanding projects and stuff like that. But the primary goal of this funding is a transportation thing to fix the roads.
Yes.
And that's what they were wanting to do. So
Existing roads.
Existing
yes,
roads.
existing roads, to fix the existing roads and that 60. So
So-
that way the money focuses on that. And that's what I think, if I'm not mistaken, Robert, that's exactly what we're trying. So we
That
just
is the
clarified
intent
it.
of the language, yes.
So
That's the
perhaps
way it's written.
If that is, if that's the way, hold on one second. If that's the intent, maybe what we need to do is ask COG staff to go back and redraft it with your input in mind, that fix it first before you get into capacity. That's basically the issue, and just write in a way that's more understandable. Am I missing something? Go ahead.
I think the part of the issue might be that we're only reading the excerpt that is on the slide, because if you read the actual document, it is much more clear. It's laid out really clearly.
Yes.
And it's not confusing at all.
And I think that that's where I'm struggling because they just pick like a paragraph, but there are other things in rows or in every section that are not in the slide. That was my point before. Like, when are we gonna add comments to those things? Because you just have like 2 paragraphs for the entire section, not the entire document.
Okay, so
Yes.
is it on, it's on
We are
page
focusing
16?
in what is on the screen right now.
Well, I guess what we can do at this point is we can make a decision to kind of table this with some more input, or make a decision or vote on this.
Tabling everything.
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It has to be from the steering committee. We'll open up to public comment in a minute. But I want to get the feeling of the steering committee. There seems to be a disagreement about whether this is clear or not. We had traffic folks saying it wasn't particularly clear themselves. They weren't sure what it meant. So I'm just a little concerned that it lacks clarity. I don't know. And I want to open up to the group. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's now on the screen for those who.
Yeah, the whole thing. If you can read it.
Yeah.
It's a little small.
To me, it's quite clear if you're reading the document that at the bottom of page 15, it says each local and street road will reach 65 PCI or above. And then the next item at the top of page 16 allows exemptions for safety issues, which have to be demonstrated through studies that show that those safety issues are causing fatalities and serious injuries. I think it's quite clear. And I would prefer to vote on it, not table it.
Okay. Again, we've had some comment here. Does anybody else want to comment on this? Go ahead. Go ahead, Wendy.
Whatever happened to the worst first?
I think it's still in the document. But listen, if you're uncomfortable with this, you table. If you're comfortable with it, you vote, you approve it. So we don't have a motion yet. We don't have a second. I will leave it to the committee. What do you want to do here?
I'll make the motion.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Make a motion to approve it.
SB makes a motion to approve it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Third and fourth.
Okay.
What are we approving? The whole.
Okay, so with that, let's take a roll call.
Mark,
I'm sorry.
I need a clarification before
Sure.
the vote. So we're approving the section under program requirements, repair, maintain, and construct, all that section? Where are we?
Well, I
approving?
thought we were approving just what was on the slide, which is
Page 16, number 3.
just on the slide here. I don't have the slide number. There's no numbers on the slides, but this one, it says 70, average 60, that we were approving that specific language.
It's number 3.
Also to be clear, it's with the language that I proposed earlier, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't impede, okay.
Okay, a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Friendly amendments, can we
What
get?
what is the language?
So that it doesn't impede expansion, does not impede.
Not impede bike or
Correct,
pedestrian
correct, walkway, yeah.
facilities.
Facilities, yeah.
So can we get a second on that? That was a motion to a friendly amendment. Can we get a second on that to be included in this vote?
Second,
Okay, who said second?
that was Amber Crowell.
Thank you. Okay, with that, are we all right? Let's take a roll call vote here and see where we are on this. And again, we're only talking about this slide, this specific, I guess, paragraph, okay?
Clarification.
Sure.
Are we voting on first amendment, what do you call it? The original motion, or are we voting on the second thing with?
We're voting on the original motion with an addendum. So it's everything included, including Scher's point about not impeding bike and pedestrian facilities. It's this plus his additional language. Yeah, well, I don't run these. I don't know Robert's Rules of Order. So if I'm wrong, Karen, I'll stand corrected. Do we have to vote on the amendment first? Karen, is that the right way to do it? Okay, let's vote on the amendment first. Scher's a motion amendment to add the language to not impede bike or pedestrian facilities. Add it to this language. So let's take a roll call vote.
Okay, Adam Holt. Chuck Yaden,
Yes.
Wendy Osborne, Lino Mendez,
No.
Karen Musson. Larry just left. Jen Guerra,
Yes.
Joseph Amador,
Yes.
Susanna Ledesma,
Yes.
Sarah Montemayor,
Yes.
Greg Garcia,
Yes.
Lee DeLapp,
No.
Darren Rose,
No.
Mona Cummings,
Yes.
Scott Miller, Artie Padilla,
Yes.
Nick Palladino,
Yes.
Kay Burtkin, Sabina Irania,
Yes.
Dr. Amber Crowell,
Yes.
Dr. Esmeralda Diaz,
Yes.
Jill Hindenach,
Yes.
Alex Chavez,
Yes.
Pastor Joby Jones,
Yes.
Naimeen Martinez,
Yes.
Evelyn Morales,
Yes.
Cher Mua,
Yes.
and SB Sandoval.
Yes.
That it? I think the motion passes. Okay, sure. Congratulations. Your motion passed. Okay, with that, we can go back to the original, and that is an up or down vote on this language on this slide with Scher's additional amendment there not to impede bike or pedestrian facilities. So let's take a vote on this. All right, do the roll call again, please.
Adam Holt,
Yes.
Chuck Yaden,
Yes.
Wendy Osborne,
I'm indecisive. Sorry. I
Abstain.
abstained.
okay. Lino Mendez,
No.
Karen Musson, Jen Guerra,
Yes.
Joseph Amador,
Yes.
Susanna Ledesma, Sarah Montemayor,
No.
Greg Garcia,
Yes.
Lee DeLapp,
No.
Darren Rose, Artie Padilla,
Yes.
Nick Palladino,
Yes.
Mona Cummings, Scott Miller,
No.
Kay Burtkin, Sabina Aranya,
Yes.
Dr. Amber Crowell,
Yes.
Dr. Esmeralda Diaz,
Yes.
Jill Hindenach, Alex Chavez,
Yes.
Pastor Joby Jones,
Yes.
Naimeen Martinez,
Yes.
Evelyn Morales,
Yes.
Cher Mua,
Yes.
SB Sandoval.
The threshold is now 19,
I don't know. How many people do we have?
27.
Yeah, and one abstention, so.
It's abstention is not a vote, so we just have to take it out of the votes that were cast. So we're 18 votes cast.
There,
How many votes were cast?
20, if you remove the abstention, it would be 26.
Okay.
18 yes is what I count.
Need 18.2 to get 70% for 26. Anybody want to be a 0.2 person? So is that correct?
He left.
Larry left. So is that correct? The vote was 18, you said? 18 out of 26?
18 yes, 7 no.
Okay, so that did not pass. So we'll table that. We'll table that section and
Sorry, Brenda, can you say that again, please?
No,
Count.
He said
seven no.
I thought it did.
6, 7,
It takes 70%.
10.
If you remove the abstention, it means that there's only 26 voting.
26 voting
And so
times
20,
0.7 is 18.2. So you need more than 18.
18 yes.
You need more than 18,
Right.
18.2 to be 70%.
It means
Sorry, that's the number.
round was established a long time ago, 70% to pass something.
Don't you round down?
You could. And listen, I'm trying to follow the rules of the committee. They said 70% approval. It's not 70%. It's short. So you can't, those are the rules. And so what happens now, I think, is we table this and we come back and revisit this. And maybe someone can pick up a vote and get to 19 if that's the number, but that's the number. We said 70%, that's the number. So,
I'll have an answer by then.
and Wendy will have an answer. So everybody start lobbying Wendy. Wendy's got tremendous power now. Okay, so let's go on. Let's go on to the next topic. And I
okay,
think this is the VMT.
yes, next slide, please. So this one, page 12 in the
I'm sorry, hold on one
guideline.
second. Now they're
Sorry.
saying a recount? Hold on.
Yeah, we had to do recount. It's 19.
It was 19. Wendy, we don't need your vote. Sorry. It's-
Okay.
Apparently,
He's you too.
right. Apparently, there's 19 votes out of 26.
Yeah.
Okay, then it does pass. Okay, so that does pass with Sher's amended language. So that's a yes. Okay, go on to the next one, and this is on VMT.
Brenda, can you advance the slide? Thank you. Okay, so this one is the issue of the goal of reducing VMT. And essentially, again, comments on both sides of the aisle on this, but it has now been adjusted to read, the Fresno County Region will have the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions as prescribed by targets established quadrennially for every 4 years through the California Air Resources Board. So the VMT requirement is in service to greenhouse gas reductions, and that's the logic for changing that.
So basically, the change is going from a shall to a may, essentially. It has the goal, it says in the original language, it will do this, and now it says it has the goal of doing this.
No.
Am I reading this correct?
Oh,
Right. The big change is to take it out of VMT and make it GHG,
Oh,
essentially.
it's gonna pass.
Because the means through which
Yeah.
the GHG goal is met is intended to be VMT, but the actual goal is GHG.
Okay. All right. Sorry. All those initials.
Yep.
All right. Any comments on this? Go around the table. We'll start over at Adam. Any comments on any of this? Anyone? Yep, go ahead. Greg?
Sorry, just as a clarification, are we taking the goal away from Fresno County and assigning it to the California Air Resources Board?
No.
They set the goal.
I believe they set the standard.
Okay.
Right.
Double check.
Yeah, and for further clarification, the reason why we use that is because that's already a metric that we're using in our regional transportation plan. We are already being prescribed targets for greenhouse gas reductions through the California Air Resources Board in our regional transportation plan and sustainable community strategy.
comments around? Anyone? Lee, I'm sorry, Wendy, you have a comment?
Oh, is this still on? So this doesn't have any forbearance on like financials. It's just a goal. It's
The metric, the measurement.
It's something that I think would be audited and we have to report on whether or not they're achieving it and how they're achieving it.
because I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say 2030 for electric vehicles, we're not going to be allowed to buy gas fueled vehicles. Can anybody piggyback on that?
That has been suspended. It's 2035 and it's been suspended.
And regardless, I mean,
Temporarily.
if that happens, that will reduce the greenhouse gases in general. This is
Yeah.
just about, instead of us having to track the VMTs, we're not going to be tracking GHGs reductions.
But to further clarify, as a region, Fresno County gets no credit from the state for electric vehicle conversion. So that is regardless of our vehicle, the mix of our vehicle fleet.
Change 30 years from now.
Okay, Lee, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, just to clarify, it takes the goal from stated vehicle miles traveled to greenhouse gas emissions, correct?
Correct.
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 Okay.
All right.
And every year our fleet gets cleaner because of just attrition.
That's true. Okay. Any other comments? All right, with that, does someone want to make a motion to approve this?
I motion.
Okay, Wendy makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Amber, second.
Amber, second. Okay, let's take a roll call.
Do we need a vote if there's no objections?
Just hold votes for controversial matters. This is going to be a very long meeting and we're going to vote on every slide. So let's.
I'm a very flexible guy.
Thank you. I understand.
So that, can we have everybody like raise their hands?
Yeah, there you go.
Raise your hands.
What for yes?
Yes.
It's approved. It's approved. How about this? Anybody want to go and say no for the record? Anybody say no for the record? That's it. Unanimous, approved. Go on to the next.
Okay. Next slide, please. Brenda, next slide, please. Okay, so this one, these are individual comments that are independent largely of each other. So pay attention to the page numbers if you would. So the first one, providing for complete streets elements, the first issue is providing for complete streets elements on all category projects. The language has been adjusted to include these elements, quote, where feasible. That's on page 16. That's one issue. A second issue is on page 18. We're now including vehicles and equipment for engineers and surveyors as eligible expenditures under this program. A third issue is an expanded definition and eligibility of mixed income development to those that are deed restricted by affordability, page 20. And then also on page 20, including previously ineligible bicycle pedestrian facility maintenance expenses as now being eligible. And these include pavement resurfacing, water, electricity, signage, and one or two others. And those are listed in the guidelines. So these are, again, these are all kind of separate and distinct, for which we received several comments.
Okay, go ahead. We'll start with Artie and we'll go around the table. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had sent in the comments for TOD and the mixed use housing. So what we saw was removed was after costs associated with developing we wanted mixed-use housing in zone districts that allow a mix of uses and include multifamily housing within existing neighborhoods. So there's a difference between what was changed in mixed income developments than mixed use. So we're actually thinking about like TOD along corridors where you actually see from research a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, actually, and also a reduction in water usage and electricity usage. So, without that, it can be spread out anywhere. And we really prefer to have that language that we submitted.
I understand. So the language that was included was based on comments specifically from City of Fresno in particular with regard to the difficulty of meeting certain thresholds by income in terms of the development attractiveness to in terms of penciling out. And the difficulty it would be to that developers would have in reaching the thresholds, and so the compromise was to kind of broaden the issue to mixed income development, which would include TOD.
Yeah, well, I guess I would counter that with, like, we have seen along Blackstone development happening the last 6, 7, 8 years. That's penciled out from different developers. So I guess, that our worry is that this could expand to sprawl. And we really don't want that. That's really where our fear is if we don't have that added language.
Let's go around the table and then we'll see if we can maybe amend this to meet your concerns. But I'm going to go around the table this way and we'll go around the table. Anybody? Here we go. Okay, Amber.
Wait. I'm interested in knowing just a little bit more about that. So how does it contribute to sprawl if the language is not in there?
Well, with mixed income, that means you can place, you can use these dollars for housing. Mixed income, it can be anywhere. Yeah, mixed use is really, when you look at the general plan in Fresno, you see a lot of that along corridors where you can build it's infill, to be honest with you, which is what we have always wanted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, I support that. And I also want to piggyback off of that and add language that ensures that at least 20% of housing units go to extremely low, very low and low income units to ensure that that housing is also going to the folks that struggle the most to afford housing.
Yeah, and that thank you. And that was also one of our recommendations too. So I didn't complete the sentence. If you look on the very first page of the comments,
okay,
you'll see what we submitted. Thank you, Amber.
Where is it here? We're in the bottom one.
And I'll be honest, sitting on the steering committee, the last round, this was something that I was trying to push. How can we leverage transportation dollars to address housing?
I'm just to make sure. So the bottom of the page there where it says CVCF agrees with including.
Yeah, so you start with the quote, a local jurisdiction.
Right there, okay.
Yeah, so that entire sequence.
Are you talking about that in place of the language that's been proposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
On page 20. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So my question is this, so my understanding, you're using street funds and roads to build houses? That's not the purpose of the Measure C. I disagree with this completely.
Well, perhaps, Artie, maybe you can describe what transit-oriented development is and why it exists.
It's enabling infrastructure, not the actual.
Right, it's not the building of the homes, yeah.
But that's not what I'm understanding here. That's not what it's saying here.
It says funding to support infrastructure and other costs associated with
Include
developing.
multifamily housing.
No, the cost of infrastructure that would support mixed income. I mean, I guess.
It says costs associated with. It doesn't say building the housing. It's the infrastructure costs associated with building it.
That would.
Infrastructure would include water, sewer.
Sewer, right, electric.
Connections, the curbs, the gutters, the landscaping. He's correct. It would include building 20% toward.
Would
building.
it, Karen, to your understanding, does that include the building itself?
No.
No, right? It-
No, but it includes building the
Everything-
neighborhood and stuff like that, whereas this is for the roads and and the streets and the sidewalks to that, but not all the infrastructure that the builder of the community should be paying already, not part of Measure C funding.
So if it.
When you build a neighborhood, all you are responsible for building that neighborhood, not the state or not the taxpayers.
And all the soft costs.
There have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, Paul, but I believe the state has supported TOD as a way to encourage people to use transit. The state has kind of been supportive of this as a general rule, I believe, but maybe you can explain a little more about TOD.
Yes, and it is an eligible expenditure. So first of all, to be very clear, this would be an eligible expenditure. It's not a mandate, right? It would be at the jurisdiction's discretion as to whether to use that. Number two, yes, we're talking about infrastructure, supportive infrastructure, which includes transportation infrastructure for that. Yes, the state has been supportive. The current measure does have a set aside at the moment specifically for transit-oriented development.
Would you need these local funds to match to get state funds? Do they generally require a
That
match
is-
for TOD?
Yes, that's the intent. Just like with major road projects, you see multiple typically for TOD projects, you have multiple revenue sources.
Okay.
That's not what I'm reading in here.
Okay.
I'm
Would it-
understanding something completely different. I'm understanding, like you said, we've been on planning commissions and everything where the home builders, this is all included in the and it's all included in the price of the house.
Would it help if it read transportation infrastructure instead of just infrastructure?
Possibly, but like I said, when you build a neighborhood, you build the roads and everything in part of that. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. The construction company pays for that. So when like City of Fowler, like the new neighborhood that's going across from the high school, they set the parameters. You know, you have to have the streets 50 feet wide. You got to have certain sewer system. It has to be hooked up to this thing. That is all part of the construction cost, and it's divided between the houses in that neighborhood. The broker has to make money too, so he divides it from each house. So each house pays for that part of the thing. It's not a government paid housing complex. It's not a taxpayer paid for that.
Well, I believe in the past, there used to be something called like economic development. That, for example, Old Town Clovis, it got developed using funds that no longer exist to way to kind of spur economic growth. The city had to put in some money to get it off the ground. The same concept is here with TOD, that the thought is there needs to be some government money. It doesn't necessarily pencil out right away. You need developers need some assistance to get these things off the ground so they become economically viable. I mean, that's how Old Town Clovis got improved. It wasn't improved just through, I believe, Clovis folks can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was other money that helped get that project off the ground. And so the same concept is here with TOD.
One potential fix here would be to specify infill development, which would build off of, at least to some extent, which would build off of existing infrastructure.
That would be,
Yeah.
you should put that in another measure and in a separate thing altogether. I mean, the whole intent of this was the infrastructure, like we've been talking from existing what we have right now to fix what we're going.
One of the points I think with TOD, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think one of the points with TOD, my pedestrian understanding, is they're trying to increase densities on certain corridors so it makes transit viable. Because one of the arguments is, oh, there's not enough people to support transit. Well, if you do transit-oriented development and increase densities, then those bus lines do become viable because there's enough people to access them. That's the point behind TOD, is my understanding.
And that's how we're thinking about it, right?
Was one of the other parts also because leveraging these kinds of funds is also how you're able to, how affordable housing can pencil out? which is what we want.
Right.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. And it's very similar to like the city getting the 250 million from the state for the downtown infrastructure, is so that if they can cover that, then the developers more likely are going to build downtown.
But it's the spur use of public transit.
Yeah, this is specifically to really make public transit more viable.
And again, it's not a mandated expense. It's a discretionary or
Right.
So there's no set aside here specifically for TOD. It just says you can use it if a jurisdiction wants to use it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not exactly about this, but it's about some of the projects that could be included under these eligible projects. We have been discussing about roads, and I remember when we were receiving from the county in particular, the list of the roads that are considered that the county has the obligation to maintain them. There were some roads that, especially in rural areas, that were not included here. And I had mentioned at that time that it will be important to make those eligible Measure C funded projects, because otherwise they will always continue to be falling through the cracks. And I don't see any language or here where we can make sure that these roads that are publicly accessible and that are not included in, I don't know what the term is, in the map of the roads that the county maintained, that could also be considered as funded projects.
Would that be in further edification later on down the line, Robert, when they're deciding more specificity to these implementation guidelines? The thing you develop over 2 or 3 years?
No, she's just talking about it's further down in the document. It's just a little bit further down, but we haven't closed the loop.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's close the loop on TOD. That's a good point.
But you're right, it's not on the slides.
I'm sorry. Lee wanted to make a comment. Go ahead, Lee.
I do want to make a comment. Don't we have an example of scope creep with procurement of vehicles and equipment? I don't know that Measure C's been doing that.
I think that is new from my understanding, and it says vehicles and equipment for engineers and surveyors. I don't know where that, well, I think I do know where that came from, but I'm wondering why that's
That
there.
was a request from jurisdictions, as was. So again, that item, and then the last bullet point, those expenses previously had been considered ineligible. But multiple requests to make them eligible.
Well, it seems like the third, or the last bullet point there, that's just to maintain the existing facility, that's just ongoing expenses. I don't want to, the questions about vehicles and equipment for engineers and surveyors, I don't know, I just, I don't know.
I moved to.
We're talking about TOD.
Yeah, well, we're talking about everything here, but let's focus on TOD. Is there anything, Adam, go ahead.
Well, the common theme between the TOD and the equipment is that we're subsidizing something that this tax measure isn't intended to subsidize. If you're taking this to the voters and your point is to fix our roads, it's hard then to plug in an adjacency where you're buying CapEx for a public agency or you're subsidizing development costs for a private developer.
But if you look at it through a different angle, you're also making it easier for pedestrians to access different modes of transportation that aren't just cars. No, we're leveraging transportation funding to help pedestrians have more options.
The other, Adam, just the other answer to your question is maybe, and I don't know if this matters to you, but I don't know you can leverage state and federal dollars for vehicles. I think you can leverage it for TOD. I don't know if that makes a
Correct,
difference.
but you're subsidizing developer behavior. And at the highest level of this, if you're going to go to the public and ask them to vote, the overarching theme has been to take care of our local roads. If in one section, we're going to create strict requirements over PCI before they're eligible to spend any other money, you can't go to the next section, in my opinion, and try to incorporate into this subsidizing project costs for private developers, no matter how good or noble or valuable their intentions are to develop, and you certainly can't go subsidizing CapEx for public agencies.
Does it matter to you that this is not mandated, merely an eligible expense, or that doesn't matter?
If it's eligible, then that's what's going to happen with it. None of it's mandated, right?
Well, there are some things that are being mandated here, but
right? I mean, but in terms of where it gets spent, that's all quote eligible. None of it's
Right.
mandated. The metrics are mandated, but not the nature of what's being built or improved or maintained. So that's
I mean,
my
that's-
two
I think
cents
that's-
on those two middle bullets. That's why they don't fit. That's not core.
Okay.
They gonna give back those trucks and equipment when they're done maintaining roads, or are they gonna drive that truck out to the wastewater treatment plant and do work there?
Okay.
I think we already know the
That's
answer.
a rhetorical question. Not going to answer that. Wendy, go ahead.
Okay, I just wrote a few notes here. So this is what I feel. I feel if the jurisdiction wants to use allocated funding specifically for TOD, right? It shouldn't have any forbearance on any other jurisdiction, right? All I'm saying is if that jurisdiction wants to use funding for TOD, there should be clear transparency with that community and the people where the money's being allocated. I think that's fair.
Okay. Any other, I'm gonna make sure, Khalid already got your comments or any other comments? Because I'm going to get Lee first before, if he has some comments, I'll make sure.
So I think that this is a change, and Robert mentioned that. And we're on a transportation measure. So then to say, as part of the transportation measure, as it moves along from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, King's X, we didn't really mean it. You can buy pickups, trucks, road graders, land move, on and on it could go.
Okay.
And that's a different category of expenditure. And currently it's ineligible, so I think that's the question that I asked, and this is a change.
Yes, I believe it is. Robert, this would be a change from the current measure, correct?
With regard to the vehicles?
Vehicles,
and-
yeah.
Yes, correct.
Going around, just want to make sure, anybody here? Okay, Amber, go ahead.
I actually also have a question about the current measure because the current measure also has an allocation for transit-oriented development and infill, right? So
Correct.
is this really that different from what we already have?
It is different in that the language now reads mixed income development to those that are deed restricted by affordability.
Which I think just
So-
proves the existing measure. There's already an allocation for infill development, transit-oriented infill development. This just makes sure it goes to projects that also create housing for low-income households. So I think it's just an improvement on the existing measure.
Amber, or maybe Robert, Amber,
Well,
is it a
I
required,
do
is there a
want to
percentage?
clarify, let me clarify one thing. It does not, and that's why I mentioned my comment earlier. It does not specify infill, which I think is kind of to Artie's point.
And I do
So-
think it should. I
Yeah,
agree
so
with
it
that,
does
that
not, specify infill, but yeah, that's probably the.
Robert, do you know, Amber, do you know, does the current measure have a specific percentage for TOD?
Yes.
Okay, so the difference would be in this one, there would be no percentage. It would just be,
Correct.
so it's not all the way that Adam
eligible-
wants, he wants it
Yeah,
out.
so under the current measure, it is a competitive program.
Okay.
So it's something that Fresno COG administers, FCTA funds, Fresno COG administers it. We receive applications for it on a biennial basis every other year, and fund on a competitive.
Do you recall
basis
what the
with the
percentage is for TOD?
2.1%.
2.1, okay. So,
No.
yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Under that current measure, are things other than transportation related provided by Measure C?
How is TOD defined currently?
let me put it this way. I'm not aware of any projects that have been awarded for like sewer or water or anything like that. Let me put it that.
What kind of
way.
examples could you give me
Project.
where it has been awarded?
It has focused on TOD in transportation infrastructure. So transit-oriented development, but specifically the transit infrastructure in front of the development to support the.
Like a bus stop or BRT stop or
Right,
something?
Correct, yeah.
Makes sense.
I think that we've had electric vehicle charging stations, these kinds of expenses. Sidewalk improvements, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could support this if it specified transportation infrastructure and erased other costs. and specified infill. Because I can imagine a bus stop.
How about we come up with some language that maybe is more agreeable for everyone and we submit that?
Okay, I'm gonna put,
That's exactly what she's saying, right?
yeah. Well, we could do one of two things. We could table this and bring it back with a revised language, including infill and specifically focusing on transportation-related expenses, which I think is what people are talking about. And then have it vote next time,
Or vote on it now.
or we could vote on it now.
I make a motion to vote on the way it's written now.
Oh, well, that's okay. Do you have a second for that?
Oh, the way it's written.
So we're commingling the,
Way it's written.
No.
by-
Just right now, we're gonna just vote on this. First, we have a motion to vote just on this.
right, I'm asking a clarifying question.
Sure, go ahead.
This being all of the points there. So where things that are reasonable, like where feasible and makes sense, is being included in the vote with buying vehicles for public agencies.
I don't know how you parse each one of those out because they'd have to like,
Well, the same way they got
Different
parsed in,
votes?
Mark, one comment at a time by committee members and public agencies.
so what are you suggesting?
I'm asking a clarifying question of what is being motioned.
My motion, or the motion I have is to approve what COG staff has added to this and taken away and added to the statement that on this section here, section,
So just for clarification, all three bullet points.
yeah, yes.
But the
More.
including the adding
Four.
infill.
More bullet
Fourth one
points.
missing? Okay, fourth, where feasible.
Page 16,
16,
page 16 of the document.
yeah.
And is that with the inclusion of infill and adding transportation before?
Page 16, page 18, and page 20. So these are separate points. Again, these are all separate points.
Okay, so then
Across
to
multiple
perhaps to
pages.
get to Adam's point,
Okay.
perhaps you want to make a vote. You can do this relatively quickly, I assume, on each of these bullet points. The first one, where feasible, the second one, vehicles, et cetera. Adam, does that meet your concern?
Just wanted to understand what I was going to be
Yeah,
asking
yeah,
for.
You and me both. Is that all right with you guys? So vote on each of the bullet points
Individually?
individually.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay,
This-
so
Yeah.
who said yes?
I did.
Somebody did. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I got a motion. Can I get a motion to do that?
I make a motion to vote on each bullet point on
And
Robert's slide here.
do we have a second? Okay, so Wendy seconds. Okay, can we
Raise
do
your
this by raise of hands?
Yes.
Okay, how many approve second bullet point as written? Raise your-
Okay, good.
the second, where feasible. Raise your hand. Okay, I think that's a yes. Do you want to count the votes where hands? Yeah, just number off. That'd be easy. Start here, one and go around. Vote yes. Just say one. 14, 15, 17,
18,
19.
20,
21.
22.
23.
24. Unanimous. I like this. This is a lot faster. Good, done. Go to the next one. We need a motion for, do we make he already made a motion for all four of them, right? So let's do a vote for the second one. All those in favor of the second bullet point there, talking about vehicles and equipment, let's go around the table and I guess say yes or no. We'll just start here and just say, do you want to just raise hands? Would that be easier? Just raise hands. Those who approve the second bullet point on spending money on vehicles and equipment, raise your hands. Okay, I think that's a no. That was, that was, okay, third bullet point, expanded
What was the result on that? What was the result on that one here? We voted on each,
We voted on.
we voted on where feasible, that was approved.
yeah,
We voted on vehicles and equipment, that was not approved.
that was not.
We are
approved.
now on number 3, and that's expanded definition of eligibility of mixed-use development to those that are deed restricted by affordability. By the way, I did hear some comments from Artie that he might want to amend it to add infill and transit-specific. If you want to,
Well,
or whoever wants.
that's not the motion, though.
That's not the motion.
I know that's the motion, but okay. Okay, hold on. Karen, I'm going to ask you. So what's the right way to do this? To vote on this? If someone wants to amend it, do we vote on this first? And then how would you suggest we do this?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion on a different,
Let her finish.
He does not accept. So then you have to take his motion. And later you'll make a second amendment saying that you want to. With that.
right, so we do his first, right.
Okay, so the first one is just what's on the board right here, what's written. Okay, so those in favor of the third bullet point being added, just raise your hand. And then if this goes down, then there'll be another vote on whether it should be replaced.
Yeah, what's your option?
But he doesn't
What do
want to.
Okay,
You already made the motion already.
so I'm trying. This is why I never did faculty senate. It would drive me nuts. All right, let's just vote. Let's vote on this third bullet point. Those who want to see this
The fourth.
third, we're on the third. We're on the third.
Third,
It's the.
Mixed use. It's the fourth bullet point, but it's the third change. Okay, sorry for the confusion. I apologize.
I have no idea. What happened to the third? Did we vote in the third vote?
We did. We voted on the.
I think- Okay.
For no in the third.
Hold
I
on,
missed
hold on.
that.
It is the fourth bullet point, but is the third change. It deals with expanded definition / eligibility of mixed income, ... So those in favor of this change, please raise your hand. Got 2 votes. I guess it's not going to go down. It's going down. Okay, so that did not pass. So now, Artie, do you want to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to amend, so it's. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would like to make a new motion.
Okay.
And this would be the language, a local jurisdiction may use existing neighborhood streets and roads program funding to support transportation infrastructure and other related costs to enable infill multi-use housing within existing neighborhoods. Each jurisdiction shall ensure that at least 20% of units within the project are restricted to extremely low, very low, and low income units.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I second.
Okay, Esmeralda seconds. Let's take a vote. Those in favor, raise your hand, please. I guess we should count it, just make it easier. Go, start again. 1.
Twelve,
14.
15.
16.
17.
19.
Is that 70%? I believe it is. It is. Okay, that passes. Okay. Let's go to the last bullet point here, whether you define it as the 5th bullet point or the 4th change, which is including, let's see, previously ineligible expenses such as pavement resurfacing, water, electricity, signage, et cetera, for bike and pedestrian facilities. Do we have we had a motion on this, right? To do all 4 bullet points. So I guess we just take a vote on this, correct? Yes. Okay. So, do you have a question? Okay. Sorry. It's also on your slides. Okay. With that being stated, let's go around and see who wants to approve this one. So all those in favor of this last bullet point, we'll start over here. Again, you get to start, Jen.
1.
Okay, that's a yes. One's a yes. That means yes.
14, 15,
17.
18.
19.
20,
21.
22.
Okay.
24.
And there you go. And that passes. Thank you. Okay. And going on to, let's take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break. We're getting.
Yeah, we want, if the
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that in previous meetings, I had mentioned that there are roads that are not included in the county maintained roads, and I'm talking about unincorporated communities. But these are the roads that are falling apart. So how are we gonna, what type of language we can include to make sure that these roads are also eligible for funding? And I understand that one definition was that, private roads was not something that obviously could receive funding for that. But my point is, how do you define a private road? Because I think some of these roads, I'm talking, for example, a portion of Excelsior by West Side. That is not included in the county map of maintained roads, but why? If it's a public road of how I interpret that definition, but maybe I need to get clarity.
Yeah,
on that.
let's have, Mohammed, could you please speak to that issue?
So if it's not part of the county maintained road miles, we won't be able to use any source of our funding, whether it's gas tax or measure or anything on it. Now, how that road was formed, honestly, I can't tell you. And I agree, there may be roads in the county that are public use, but who is supposed to maintain it?
And that's the point that I'm trying to make, that I think we need to add language where these type of roads that have public access and are not currently maintained by the county, that become eligible so that the county can add them to that.
Would it make
County
sense?
would not accept that liability. I mean, unless Measure puts a set aside money for those type of roads that maybe county or another city can maintain it, but we won't accept. I mean, we're trying to get rid of our road miles. We are not going to accept liability for hundreds of miles that we do not want to maintain.
Do we have an inventory of what we're talking about here? Could the first step be getting an inventory of what exists that are these public access streets that nobody seems to have jurisdiction over, and then decide how to deal with those? Is there like a step process here that the county could do?
I think our maintenance have started that process, but honestly, going over all these roads in the county that are not part of our maintained mileage is gonna take a lot of resource, which we are short of. But we are looking into it, yes.
But
it will take time.
Okay.
It would take time and resources, but if we're going to keep the spirit of how we have been discussing this about prioritizing the roads that are worst, we cannot leave those roads out.
County has been shortchanged I mean, we have more than half the miles of all the roads in the region is counties. We're getting half the allocation. So expecting the county to do more with less is not fair to the county.
Well, one of the things we can
It's
start.
not fair for the people who, the disadvantaged residents of those communities.
You just approved.
Hold on.
You just approved a formula moving forward that shorted the county $20 million, according to COG figures.
70.
Well, listen, one thing we can start at, maybe there can be some agreement on it. We can at least create an inventory of public streets that no one seems to have jurisdiction over. And then at some later point, perhaps they can tap grant funding or some other state or federal funding to get those roads maintained. Maybe start with an inventory first. I think we need that. Perhaps we could entertain some language to at least in the next whatever period of time, create an inventory of public access streets that no one seems to have jurisdiction over. At least start there with an inventory. Can we at least agree on that? Create an inventory?
We can try, but I can't promise how long it's gonna take.
Well, you'd have to come up with an agreement as whether it's 2 years, 5 years, whatever it's going to take.
Yeah,
to do that.
we're gonna try. I mean, that's something that when I checked with our maintenance folks, they said they have started, but they just don't have the resources to go.
Can you come back and propose something along those lines of creating an inventory by X amount of time, and then we'll submit it to the group and see how the group feels about whether the timeline is reasonable, et cetera. But we should at least have an inventory. If these are public access roads that no one seems to have jurisdiction over, that's problematic, it would seem.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
That seems fair. All right, great. Problem solved. Anybody else want to talk about anything else about roads that was not addressed so far? So we can wrap this category up.
Yes, I'd like to go next.
Okay.
So on page 16 at the bottom, under program requirement number 6, regarding the amount of County of Fresno's allocations going towards disadvantaged and incorporated communities, the suggestion is to replace the 5 million annual minimum to 7%. Now, I understand there's a lot of concern with having a flat amount required each year, given that the county's allocations are expected to significantly increase over the next 30 years. So to address this, I'd like to make a motion that the language now reflect the County of Fresno is annually required to spend a minimum of 15% or an equivalent percentage needed to amount to an estimated total of 150 million over 30 years on disadvantaged and unincorporated communities.
All right. Let's have a conversation about this. So right now it says, well, it did say 5 million a year, which would have been 150 million, if my math is right.
Yeah.
Now there's a 7% there. So COG staff, why is there 7%? What would that equal?
So we have done some analysis on the unincorporated disadvantaged communities. We've calculated the road miles and populations that live within these communities, and that is how we derive the 7%. Essentially, there are currently 56 road miles of the county's 3,389 road miles. And the population that lives within the 36 disadvantaged unincorporated communities is 13,154 of the 160,000 people that live in unincorporated Fresno County.
I think you said, apologies for clarification. I know you're not feeling well. Thank you for being here. You can hear it. Thank you. But you said, I think you said 56 disadvantaged unincorporated. How many exactly are there? Disadvantaged unincorporated?
There's 36 according to the counties. It's their SB 244 analysis.
36.
That's just the county.
And there's 13,154 people
that
living
live
in
within those 36.
And there's 56 miles of roadway that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are some metrics that, or at least
Yeah,
numbers.
and so why the 5 million was adjusted is because 5 million in the first year, we are pegging it about 19 million would be the county's first year of allocation. So that'd be essentially over 25% of the county's first year allocation would go to 56 road miles of over 3,300. And it just doesn't, the 5 million essentially was a placeholder number until we could do this calculation. We're suggesting that a change needs to be made where it's a percentage, right? We do think it's fair that we ensure that funding gets put into those communities. There is a recognition that there has not been enough funding, but a flat amount we feel is just disproportionately too much. It is inequitable to the rest of the county, which is tens of thousands of people that live in disadvantaged communities that aren't in these designated, unincorporated communities.
What would 7% every year over 30 years get you?
So 7%, it starts at 1.3 million, and that would grow to 4.1 million in the final year. So it would start at 1.3.
And what is the
and
total
grow.
total amount that you would have over 30 years?
Oh, I haven't calculated that out. Well, it would be 7% of the counties. I believe they're at 1,085 million. So it'd be like over 70 million, $75 million.
So it's like half of what we had already discussed and voted on.
Well,
in
that,
the
like I
state
said,
steering
that was before we calculated how many people lived in these communities, how many road miles were in these communities. That was not an informed number. That was a placeholder. It was not based off any calculations we had done.
So, but isn't it true that when we voted on funding allocations, right? We voted on allocations already. So
Yes.
basically making this big of a change, right? So basically slashing that 150 million basically by half. That's kind of revisiting the allocations we already voted on.
The allocations were by jurisdiction, not the guidelines this is a guidelines issue. The jurisdictions were not changing anything to deal with the jurisdictions. Those are based off the 80-20 formula that was approved by this committee. This is a implementing guidelines issue, which is why we're introducing this today.
The other possibility is, and just throwing it out there as an idea, maybe it could be X amount of dollars until an unincorporated area hits 70 PCI. And once it hits 70 PCI, okay, then that funding is no longer necessary because it's hit 70. Is that a way to approach this? Then it's not that it goes on for 30 years. It might end in 10 or.
I think Evelyn, we're ignoring Evelyn's suggestion, which addresses Paul's issue about, it's too much upfront. That's why you propose that language, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm proposing that we include or an equivalent percentage needed to amount to an estimated total of that.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years, yeah.
Okay, so
That's key word is over 30
Yeah.
years.
So your suggestion was 15%, and my recommendation would be that would be too high. I mean, we're talking at that point, we're looking at 2.5 million growing to over 10 million for 56 road miles of 3,300,
For
right?
the most disadvantaged road.
They
miles
are,
in
but
the-
again, there's disadvantaged communities all over the county that aren't in these very specific designated communities.
So I'm just gonna say that we were willing to, and I am passionate about this. We were willing to stop this entire process and table a big chunk of this because it was about bike trails, right? Trails and bike lanes. This is just as important. And we're slashing what we had discussed already as 150 million by half. It's a big deal,
Well,
even if it was just a placeholder.
It is a big deal. And there,
Is a big deal.
It is a big deal. And something that's that passion. We want to make sure we can get as much consensus as possible. And it sounds like right now we've got a little bit of a disconnect going on. Maybe would it be okay to kind of continue to talk about this for a week and see if we can reach some kind of resolution as opposed to trying to push it through now? I would suggest that maybe you might want to think about that and maybe talk to people and see if we can come to some kind of resolution that's people can agree to.
I guess given that we're almost at a conclusion, sure.
Yeah, you got 3 minutes. I'm sorry. We are up against it. We will bring this up because I know it's very important, obviously. So it has to be discussed. So if it's all right with you guys, let's table that for now. We'll bring it up next time. I would really encourage folks who care about this to talk to COG and see if we can work out something that you can live with going forward. Totally get it. The other option I would just suggest, and I don't know how you feel about this, if the idea is specifically for roads in these unincorporated areas to getting to 70 PCI, maybe the answer is once they get, so there's only 56 miles according to COG. Once they get to 70 PCI on those 56 miles, maybe then they've met that obligation for transportation. So I'm just making a suggestion, something to think about. Okay. All right. With that, a few things here. We're not going to get to transit today, so we're going to have to meet next week on the 11th. I know you're looking forward to that. And so we'll pick up on trails. And remember, the trails issue was there are 2 or 3 things you need to talk about. Number one is the number of miles, 120 versus 150. I think within that, do you want it specifically allocated X number of miles to class 1, Y number of miles to class 4? The second major issue, I guess that's the second issue. The third issue is Fresno, we're going to limit this to the Fresno-Clovis metro area and not include smaller communities. Focus that on those issues. The other one is this issue on the disadvantaged unincorporated areas. What is the appropriate amount to be allocated to fix the problems in those areas, transportation problems? Again, I make the suggestion of maybe once if it's 56 miles, that's the inventory. Once it gets to 70 PCI, then maybe that obligation then ceases. In other words, but it has to be maintained. The other issue is Amy made a comment about the number of public access streets that are not inventory. The county in the next few days, week, whatever, is going to give us an amount of time it's going to take for them to inventory those public access roads that nobody seems to have jurisdiction over. All right, so that hopefully takes care of roads, but if there's something else.
There's one more. There's the safe routes to school.
Oh, okay. Hold on, we got 1 minute. Well, so safe routes to schools, it is now in the draft guidelines that 5 sites per year were going to be addressed. Do you want to take a vote on that?
No, I was just saying for next time.
Do you,
That's one
well,
more item
it
to
depends.
discuss.
If people think that I don't know how people feel. If they think that's an acceptable number, we could just bless that today and not worry about it next
That's
time.
the point, that there was a proposed change. We have got thinking about something a little bit different for that.
Okay, so then we'll table that one as well. So safe routes to schools, we'll put that aside as well. We've still got a little work to do. With that, I think we're going to give people an opportunity to do some public comment. I will say, I understand that we're up against a clock for some people at 5:30. This meeting is being videotaped, I believe. And so if steering committee members can't stay around, please watch the public comments so that you can incorporate those ideas when you vote on things next time. But I would like to open it up now to, well, two things. We should do a timeline as to what we're doing forward. We're going to meet, I suppose, next week, December 11th, with the hope of trying to finish this, please, by next week. We'll see. But we're going to try. And then at 3 o'clock, same time.
Yep.
3 to 5:30. And maybe, let me just put this out there. Would you guys be willing to at least consider staying a little longer and just finishing this on the 11th, if need be? Let's
Yes,
just get
I
it
move that
done.
motion, stay until it's done.
Oh, there'll be a party. Okay, so guys, bring your sleeping blankets or whatever. We're going to finish this next week.
Mark, is there a
Yeah.
way we could start earlier?
Is there a way we can start earlier? Some people can't. I think we need to stick to where we are. I'm sorry. We're going to stick to where we are and just make it stay as long as you can, but we want you to stay for the duration. Let's get this thing done. And I really do appreciate the passion and the work everyone's done. It's really been laudable. So thank you for that. So we'll finish up hopefully next week. That's the goal. And then we had some other timelines on here, Robert. The next day, December 12th.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Right.
We're finishing it. So that's where we are. So next week, we're going to keep the meeting going for public comment. Those of you that need to leave, that's okay. Please view the public comments when you have an opportunity. Our plan is to meet next week. We'll get out some things. The COG staff will get out some things for you for next week and hopefully get through these 3 issues on roads, move on to transit, and then the other issues that need to be wrapped up. And we'll stay as long as we need to stay to get this thing done. Thank you again, everyone. So with that, we'll open up the public comments. Would appreciate it if you kept your comments to about 2 minutes. And then if you hear someone make a comment that you are going to make, if they have already made it, no point in being redundant. Just say, raise your hand. Me too. I would say the same thing. Okay. So with that, please state your name for the record and go on the record.
Claudia Hernandez, Mothers Helping Mothers. I'm watching the process and I'm kind of concerned that if we would have just used a hard copy and gone down the line instead of jumping all around, I think it would have been faster. Because now we're going backwards. You know, we're adding some more stuff that wasn't added because we should have done it in the beginning. When I say we, it's you all. So like in normal places, you start on page 1, everybody votes real quick, move, second, third, fourth, instead of jumping around. That's my comment.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the input.
Hi, Sandra Sedalon. Interesting that this is what neutral facilitation looks like, Mark. But want to make a comment specifically about the bike and trail conversation and say that I absolutely would not support removing the requirement for smaller cities because I think folks in smaller communities deserve to also have protected bike lanes and trail facilities. As someone who grew up in an unincorporated community, it's really a travesty that 40 years later is the first time that I've been able to ride, not in a protected bike lane, but in a class 2 bike lane. 40 years is what it took to get that in my neighborhood. And so, no, it doesn't happen because people say they're going to do it. And no, the city of Fresno doesn't do it out of their kind heart because it's within the city of Fresno, even though it's an unincorporated community. So I think that that would be a huge disservice, especially if we're talking about trails and bike paths for transportation, not for recreation. Poor people and folks who cannot afford a vehicle who actually use trails and bike lanes for transportation live in communities that very often do not actually get those investments. And so I think like there does need to be a requirement for a minimum. And I don't think that it's burdensome for less than 40 miles to be added between the county and 2 or 3 other cities over a 30-year span. I actually think that's a very low bar. And so I would be strongly against not having that requirement. The other piece that I would add to that is I definitely support having a joint master plan around active transportation between the city of Clovis and Fresno, because they are the only jurisdiction that is exempted from the regional transportation plan, right? That does look at connectivity between the rest of the jurisdictions in the county outside of those two urban cores. And so that is why there is some disconnections and some gaps, right? So how do we actually start to plan for a network of connectivity with pedestrian and bikeways? So I would be supportive of that. And then, of course, I agree that 120 or 150 is too low. But I also want to balance that with getting our mayors to support the measure. And I know that that's a concern that they've raised a lot at the COG. So I don't know what the right balance is there, but I just want to state that. And so I'll leave you just with those comments tonight.
Sandra, can I
Thank
ask for clarification? When you're saying there was a discussion about leaving, in the current measure, smaller jurisdictions are left out of the trail and class 1 requirement. Are you saying that every community should have that requirement? Or do you make a threshold or?
I'm supportive of the threshold that was presented, which exempts any jurisdiction that is not required to have an active transportation plan.
So you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that because I do think, right, if they're too small, right? But once they hit a certain population threshold, like why not, right? Because this is how we ended up with large cities without a trail network because they never actually planned for it when they were smaller cities.
Right. And then that actually, I think I'm right, that that's in the current measure, that once they meet that threshold, like over 25,000, they're then required to do something.
Well, yeah, but if we remove the, out of the 120 miles, the 70-30 split between the remaining cities, the smaller communities, right? You're essentially adding all of the 120 miles requirement just to the city of Fresno and Clovis. And there's no requirement for any jurisdictions that have over 25,000.
Simple solution, just increase the number of miles.
Which again, if you go for it, Mark, I mean, you've been advocating for it all night. So talk to the mayors and make it happen. I support that too.
All right. Any other public comments? With that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.